Today, let's discuss the deepest component of a relationship, which is vulnerability. Now, why do I call this the deepest component? Before I answer that, let's talk about what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is opening up yourself to the opposite person where you can be your authentic self without the fear of judgment. Putting yourself in a place where the other person can hurt you. I know, this must have made you go like, are you crazy? Why do I want to put myself in a position where somebody can hurt me? First, let me be clear. Vulnerability does not mean being weak. I believe in your daily life, the world constantly puts you in a place where you need to mask your authentic self and act a certain way. And many people make the mistake of also doing this in their relationships where they mask themselves. Which is why you must have heard of the scenario of somebody getting a wake-up call in a relationship and realizing that they can't act anymore and that it doesn't feel authentic anymore, regardless of how many years or decades have passed. They feel that way because it was not the relationship or the partner that did that, but it was them not being able to identify that they needed this vulnerability to be their authentic self. Well, you might ask, why do I have to be vulnerable to a partner? While you can also be vulnerable with friends and family, but I believe it gets limited at some point. And so it is only a relationship that gives the chance to get to the deepest personal spaces of a person. And if at this point there is no vulnerability, then there are only filters and barriers put up, making it difficult to bond. And this is why I call vulnerability the deepest component of a relationship. So what happens when a person is not vulnerable in a relationship? So there are two things that happen. One, they're not being their true self and might also be portraying a curated version of themselves, which does no good in the long run. Two, the bond they form is going to be fragile. Here, the true self or the authentic self is that non-curated version of you which has all of its weaknesses and insecurities. So you might ask, this sounds scary and tough to open up like that to somebody. Well, don't worry. The responsibility is not all on you. So far, we've only discussed one part of it. The other part is about your partner providing you with the right environment to be vulnerable and be accepting of it. And this goes both ways. You also have to do the same for your partner. And if you're unsure about how you might be received, don't worry. You don't have to do it all at once. You can take small incremental steps. And when both are accepting of the insecurities you have, guess what happens? Those insecurities do not exist anymore. That is where the beauty lies. But to do that, there is one main component you need. And here is where I would like to introduce the concepts: empathy and kindness. Your exercise for today. Write down, what is it that blocks you from being vulnerable?